DWR util manipulation functions. There's add options, which takes some kind of list and it adds a bunch of things to a list. So there's add options and remove all options. There's remove rows and add rows, which works on the table, and that's what we're doing here. So all we're going to do is we've created some empty arrays, and we're going to add rows and columns to a table based on those empty arrays. So if we just switch and run that, then what we should suddenly see is that our DWR web page now all of a sudden has, so all that other stuff is just filled in by some CSS, but we've sort of magically created a table now. What we need to be able to do is to muck about with the elements of that table and effectively to be able to address individual TD elements in that table. What DWR has for all of its functions is this options object. And what the options object does is to enable you to customize how it's going to work. For the add row things, this cell creator concept, which enables you to change how cells are created. There's a row creator and that sort of thing as well. So this guy here, very simple. All we're going to do in order to create a cell is create a TD. Actually, that's exactly the same as what DWR does by default if you don't put all this lot in. But if we just have have you got some Firebug? If you just pop up Firebug,
we didn't check
that. Dig down here. We can see our table now has got some divs on it. And you can see none of those have IDs. So let's change our JavaScript very slightly to add some IDs in. What we need to do is, short bit of stuff there, and what we're doing is creating a unique number and setting that as the ID for each of these creators. And all we have to do is save that, flip back to the web page, and what we should see now is that our TD elements all of a sudden have IDs on them. Excellent. So that enables us to manipulate those cells one by one. And finally, what we need to do is to show the user where they are. We sort of assign somebody a random position on the screen. It's going to be good if you can see your little boat that sort of demonstrates where you are. So all we need to do here, you've got the position, the row, and the column. And all we're going to do is, because each of the cells in the table now has a unique identifier, we can grab a hold of one of those cells and we can change its CSS ID to be something that shows a boat. In this case, we're just giving it the home class. And all we need to do now is save, flip back, get rid of Firebug, and you'll see there's a boat there now that corresponds to the position that we are. So that's all set up. We've registered with the server knows about us, and we've done some quick manipulation of the web page. So, two more steps for the client. We need to be able to send messages to each other, and we need to be able to shoot at each other. So the first of those things is sending messages. Now, in the HTML, there's a field where you can type in stuff to talk to each other, and there is a send message just at the bottom, send message, which enables you to click return or click on the button, and that stuff will then go off to the server. So the send message function, we're just going to write send message. Looks a little bit something like this. Yeah, there we go. So we're saying to DWR, go tell the server that there's some message, and then clear the field so that in case he wants to type something else in there. So we need to go and write this add message function on the server. I want to make sure we finish this in time. So there's a few lines to paste here. It's something like 30 lines or so that implement the server-side function. So this is add message on the server, and we'll very quickly go over what it does. So first of all, we've got the add message thing, which is sort of in the middle of the screen at the moment. Get person, simply, when we first registered, we stored this person in somebody's script session, and now we pull it out again. So we now know who somebody is. We've now got this add message to list, which is down the bottom. And that takes charge of making sure we've got the 10 last messages held in a linked list. So we know what's going on. So I'm not going to go through that in detail because most of that is boilerplate Java that we don't really need to dig into. So that is the core of the send message. The server now knows about the message. What we need to do now is the tricky thing, and that's to broadcast it to all the clients. So the final thing that we do is refresh everyone method, which is down the bottom. So this is where the reverse Ajax comes in. What we're going to do now is we're going to use our web context factory. First of all, to find the current page. Where is the current user? What's their URL? And then we're going to say, get me a list of everybody else on the same web page. And DWR will take charge of keeping a track of who there is and who's on what web page. So we've now got a collection of script sessions. And these are the script sessions of other players in the game. And then we have a thing called a script proxy. Script proxy is your way of taking JavaScript and sending it back down to the browser. And in this case, all we're going to do is ask DWR to call the server update function. We're going to pass in our linked list of messages. And DWR is going to take charge of taking that linked list, turning it into a JavaScript array back on the client. So we need to go and write that server update function on the client, so that we can take the messages and display them on the screen. So this is what server update looks like. We're going to take this chat log, which is just an unordered list. We're going to remove all of the elements from this unordered list, and we're going to add a bunch in more. So that's what removal options and then add options does. And you'll notice we're passing in the ID of the unordered list, a bunch of messages, which is what was a linked list back on the server, and we're then passing in this format chat line, which is just our way of turning a message object into something that we can actually put on the screen. So let's have a look at that. And, so now as we type the message and press return, right, so what we've got here, you think it's not right. That actually is right. The problem that we're faced with is cross-site scripting. We could quite easily have typed some HTML maybe in that field at the top, and that's the way cross-site scripting works. Yeah. So that, for example, wouldn't be good for the other users on the system because they'd have things starting to blink. So what DWR is doing is saying, you haven't told me whether you trust this to be free of HTML or not. So I'm going to assume that there's all sorts of nasty stuff going on here, and I'm going to assume it's bad, I'm going to assume it's evil, and I'm going to escape it for you. So hence all that nastiness. What we need to do is to say to DWR, here are the bits we trust, and here are the bits we don't trust. So first of all, what we do is we say to the add options thing, I'm going to take charge of what's trusted and what's not trusted, what the user can have manipulated and twisted and what they can't. So we say escape HTML false, don't do any HTML escaping, and we'll do it. And then there's two things that the user can manipulate. That's their name, because they may be able to change their name, and there's the message text that they've typed. And what we're all going to do is say escape HTML on those two particular fields to say they're not trusted and please escape the HTML because the user could have got to that lot. And if we flip back, we should be able to see that now the messages actually work properly. Now I'm just going to see if this network can be persuaded to play ball. Yes, fantastic. So here, can you type something yet? Right, you should see now. Let me, if I type something. Right, I don't know if you can see there. There's somebody else who's come in. That's Lionel the Cannibal. That's me.
Hey, Lionel.
Yeah. So actually, we've managed to get the network working, and so Lionel is playing. Now, I'm now going to type another message, and we can just see a little bit about how reverse Ajax is working. So I've just typed something which you can't see yet on Geert's browser, but when Geert types something, you now see the stuff I typed earlier. Reverse Ajax works in three ways, depending on the conditions of the network. The most advanced is Comet. So we open an HTTP connection from a browser, and we don't close it, we keep it open, and we squirt stuff down bit by bit. And there's various different twists we have on the way Comet works, how early we close down sockets and that sort of thing. There's polling, which is perhaps the obvious thing to do, where you say, every second or every 5 seconds or something, the browser says to the server, is there anything for me? And finally, there's a technique called piggyback, which doesn't require any extra traffic from the browser at all, but what we are going to do is wait for DWR to talk to us again and then push something in on the response. So, unless you turn active reverse Ajax on, that's Comet and polling, then DWR defaults to piggyback. So the reason that you can't see what I have typed until Geert types something is that the changes I made to the server aren't propagated down to Geert because we're just using piggyback, and when Geert does do something, magically the stuff appears in the browser. So how do we do active reverse Ajax? How do we turn on polling and Comet? Well, it's pretty simple. In the init method, what we simply have to do is to say this. Set active reverse Ajax true. That's it. So we just say to DWR, it's okay to be having extra connections to the server. And now what we should see, if we refresh things, we'll be 2 new people now. But we should see that as soon as I type, it appears on the browser. Geert doesn't have his hands on the keyboard at all when I'm typing. What we're doing here is holding open a connection and piping stuff down it, and it all just happens magically without you needing to worry about it. Is that you?
That's not me. Our network works.
That's somebody else who's getting in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Great.
So
Everybody can open his laptop and try it out.
Right, so we can type messages to each other, but actually what we can't do is to shoot at each other, and it's kind of pointless without that. So let's add in the shooting. So, first thing we need to do, we're going to shoot at each other by clicking on the map. Clicking on the map is going to cause the missile to hurtle across space and destroy all the other ships. So what we're going to do is simply to register an on-click event on each of the cells in the table so that we know when somebody's clicked. So that's pretty simple. In the cell creator function, we're just going to add a few lines to register on-click function, and that on-click function is going to call the shoot method on the server. So let's write that. There's what, another perhaps 20, 30 lines involved with sorting out the shoot. What we're going to do really is pretty simple. We're going to get a list of the other players. We're going to iterate over those players to see whether they are where we've just shot at. And if they are, we're going to decrement something from their points and increment our points. If we've shot at ourselves, then we're stupid. We tell everyone that he's franked himself, and we just decrement our score. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to go through it in detail because that's Java, not DWR or Ajax or anything like that. So there's one other thing that we need to do, and that is when somebody's shot, we want to update everyone that there's something happened. So the server update function we need to tweak. Previously we were just passing the messages back, and we want to pass back not only the messages, but everyone's scores now, so we can keep a little tally of how everyone is doing. So we've got this server update function to which we were passing the messages, and now we want to pass back all the people. So you don't need to worry about, it's fairly trivial Java that's just picking everyone together that, and I'm sure you could sort of define what's doing there. We're just looping over all the script sessions, pulling out the people. That's basically it. So now what we need to do is to go into our JavaScript and update the server update function. So now we not only have a list of messages, but now we have an array of the players involved as well. So we're going to take our score table, we're going to remove all the rows from it, and we're going to add some more rows in. And we've got a couple of formatting functions there to decide how we format the columns for the list of players' names and the scores. And I'm not going to go through that in any detail. That's basically all there is to the updates to that function. So let's see how we get on. Is that saved?
Yeah, it is.
So, the good thing here is that you can't see my screen, but I can see yours. Right, so there we go. So that's basically the game. There's somebody else in there, isn't there? Who's that?
Who else managed to get in the game?
Very good, I'm impressed. I mean, obviously, if it was just for writing games, it wouldn't be that much use. There's a whole multitude of real-world applications that DWR fits well in. The model we take is sort of the Unix model of you do one job and you do it well, and you integrate with other people. You don't try to rule the world yourself. So what DWR does is remoting, and we do some manipulation of web pages. We don't do widgets, we don't do big server-side frameworks, we do remoting, and we do some page manipulation. So that's sort of DWR in a nutshell, and we try to stay very focused on what we do and doing a good job there, and not getting sidetracked by other stuff. And it means that we integrate with a whole bunch of other things very well. So, if you've got a Struts 1 application, then DWR will work with it. It doesn't require you to throw everything away and start again. Walmart used DWR on their shopping website. They didn't have to throw everything away and start again. They just took their existing web application, added DWR in, and began to use it to help people shop on their website. If you've got Spring, if you've got web work, if you've got JSF, if you've got Rife, well, the first three of those, DWR has some integration with. If you're using Rife, then Rife comes with DWR built in. So it interacts with all that lot very well. I should have added Juice to that list because, as of a few weeks ago, we've got some Juice integration as well. You can use it by itself with DWR util, which is what you've just seen us doing. You can use it as a service layer to Scriptaculous or Dojo or that sort of thing. If you have an app that's based on those technologies, then DWR works with them absolutely fine. And in a bit we'll see DWR working with Scriptaculous. And let's suppose you've got an enterprise application. If you've got TIPCO GI, then DWR works very well with TIPCO GI. Let's just have a quick demo. If we can switch back to the demo machine. What we have is a table, and in the table there's a bunch of stock market prices, which is just random stuff coming out of a Java util random. And DWR is using reverse Ajax to push these objects to the client. And we then have a TIPCO GI matrix, and in the matrix we're updating the values. excellent. And whenever one of them changes, we're highlighting it in red. This is an example of DWR doesn't do widgets, but TIPCO GI does. So we have a growing set of Java APIs that mimic JavaScript APIs. So what we're talking about here is particularly Scriptaculous. So first of all, we're going to, in the HTML, just add Scriptaculous in there. And on the server side, now what we can do is to use some Java objects which look like the JavaScript versions of Scriptaculous. So what we've done here is to take the refresh everyone page and add a couple of lines. We've got this effect object. If you're familiar with Scriptaculous effects, you'll know exactly what this is doing. We're creating an effect object and we're passing in a bunch of sessions. These are the people to change. These are the web pages we're going to manipulate. And we're going to say shake. And what we're going to shake is the map. So if we just save that, and reload the server. And every time you type something, the map shakes. So, very simple thing to do, and to be honest, not that useful. That's not a reflection on Scriptacular's. The fact it's not useful is just because we haven't done anything useful for it. You can see what I mean. And there's all of the Scriptacular's effects are in there, and you can use them from the server. So the thing to note is, we use Scriptacular's without writing a single line of JavaScript there. And we have a Java API that's doing all the type checking for you, and that sort of thing. Right, if we can switch back to the main presentation slide.
Yeah, the end of the second day at JavaOne, and I'm heading over back to the Java.net pavilion. Just gonna take a bit of air outside, man. Have a look at this. These are the coaches that would take you back to your hotel. Down this escalator. See all those bean bags down there? Chill out and relax. Actually, the pavilion is actually closed.
Peter is doing another surveillance camera trip and making sure that nobody's doing any bad things.
Oh, I thought the pavilion would be open. It's shut.
The pavilion opening times suck badly.
Oh, that's a job. This is JavaOne. And there's a video screen again, you've seen that many times. So unfortunately the pavilion is closed. See what these guys are doing here.
Oh,
hey, how you doing?
Yeah. Howdy.
Hi, how you doing, man?
You got one too. I gave one.
Do something.
Years ago was heating control with glassfish and everything else, and I don't know, now I will enhance this with people, and I will use sunspots for temperature sensor, and yeah, I would like to refine my heating control.
And your name again is Adam?
Bean.
Bean.
Like enterprise Java beans.
Yes, yeah.
Or Java
German house is, oh yes.
German house with Java 5.
Yeah.
And my wife was a tester.
Yeah, excellent.
In a hard winter, you know.
Yeah.
So not the San Francisco. I'm expert program in Java U3 and Java E6 as well.
This is Pepperdine, yeah. How are we doing?
How are we doing, Mr. Peter?
Pilgrim, yeah.
How are you doing?
Java Web User Group in London. I'm doing really well.